Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah.
I've begun recording.
There we go. Cool. All right. Matthew and Rizzle show. We're back at it. Hold on. Rizzle, or what did you do? Dragon
Almost back at it.
Okay. We're officially back at it. Dragonade just kicked off record. Thank you, Dragonade. Matthew and Rizzle show. Here we are. Rizzle's back from ETH Denver. I feel like let's just get right into that. How was Denver, dude?
Dude, it was great. I'd never been to ETH Denver before. So it was like, honestly, anticipating sort of the run-of-the-mill conference type of thing that I've been going to, like NFT NYC style, Bitcoin Miami, some of these like larger conferences, but it was really not like that at all. So it was a really good experience in general, man. But, I got this press pass and like was sort of doing my stupid like LARPing as a reporter the whole time, which like, interestingly enough, man, me LARPing as a reporter actually like led to really good conversations and like interesting stuff because I kept telling everybody I was LARPing as a reporter and they were like, oh shit, well, you should report on this. And they would like tell me like all the most interesting stuff going on or like show me something cool or whatever. So I got a little taste of like what it might be like to be like a real media person if you're like being shown all the cool stuff by people and everything. But it was fun, man. I had fun LARPing as a reporter. I talked to real media people in case you want to know what real media people do. It's not really what we do at these events. But I was like gathering some intel in case, we needed to be real media people in the future. But it was cool, man. Like a very non-shilly, not like plugging tons of junk the whole time event. There's like pretty quality stuff on the show floor and a decently curated speaker lineup, even though like the speaker lineup I feel like is never terribly interesting to me unless there's like someone I really care about speaking. But I was out there with Mona and like Katrina from the Monaverse team was had a panel, so we turned out for that and that was cool. Got some cool swag. I learned from the master Easy himself, and me and Fractillion scoured the conference floor for all the dopest stuff that was out there. And I'm getting very selective with my swag because I don't need a bunch of junk t-shirts. So I got like the nice stuff. And ran into a bunch of the fam, man. Hung out with Conlon, played skeet ball with Conlon, and went bowling with Trizlet and Nate Alex and Harry Otter and a bunch of people. You can never run into everybody at these things. It was one of these things where like, there's 3 side events concurrently going on in like all different places that you got to get an Uber to and all this shit. So, from that angle, it was a repeat of like New York City or Miami or one of these ones where there's so many people and there's so much stuff going on, but it was good, dude. I feel like the big takeaway from it, at least for me, was that like the vibe was really, really positive, man. Like in the space and amongst like the super fan, like nerds there who seem to be like the biggest demographic of people who turn out for this thing. Ran into Steve, Steve Klebnov from like Zoo Token and Rats and Party DAO and was cool to hang out with him for a little while in real life. And I don't know, man. It was like a real cool event. Interesting to hear like what it looked like from the outside because I feel like I went into this event with a lot of misconceptions of what was actually going to be happening or going down. Have you been to ETH Denver before?
No, man. I was hoping to get out there this time, but family situation was such that couldn't make use of our media passes. But have heard. It's like a cultural event is how I've seen it from the outside. Especially like, I'm not sure if it started off more dev focused. I think that's how it did get started. But it was one of the first conferences that I saw that really like featured and incorporated artists into the mix, which added an infusion of culture. And yeah, like in my mind, it's just like this like rainbow unicorn event. It's like really fun, flamboyant, light, for the culture. From the outside, this time it seemed like nothing but good vibes. The only quote unquote like negative thing I saw was people attributing the market crash or whatever happened last week to Jonathan Mann and his like getting on. I think he did something last year and something happened around that time and people were blaming Jonathan and we're like, what the fuck is this? But yeah, I mean, obviously that happened because of Silvergate News, not because Song a Day Man, aka Jonathan Mann, singing a funny song on stage with everyone. I think that was probably it was all positive. It was super quick. It was like last week it was here and then boom, all of a sudden it was the weekend. I'm wondering like on the ground if it felt as quick as it seemed from afar.
Well, two comments, man. Just to bring it back to Song a Day, man. That's first of all really funny. Unfortunately didn't get a chance to run into him. This is one of these things where like we were there at the same thing together, but you know, just different circles of people at different times that never overlap. But he actually made a song the following day or the day after based on all the hate that he got for that song, which I just thought was so great. He like really leaned into the the criticism and made a song out of it. But that's funny, man. Next time he's going to do a conference, we should all dump like the day beforehand. It was so here's like I didn't fully appreciate like the developer enthusiasm and the context of the situation for the developers, man, because for like the week leading into the main event, you know, these developers are all working on like hackathon shit. And so there's like bounties put out there for people who, you know, want to attempt or try to attempt to do stuff. And like a shitload of them, man. They're like all in the same room, you know, like on the computer, you know, mashing away, whatever devs do. So I actually felt like, you know, me coming in LARPing as like a media person, like I sort of felt like for the first time at one of these conferences, like sort of not on the periphery, but like I'm like my skill set is really like in the same wheelhouse, but like adjacent to what the bulk of like the really diehards go to this thing for. Like, you know, I appreciate devs. I work with devs, but I don't dev. And sort of the culmination of the event at the very end is sort of like the presentations and this showcase of like what these developers have been working on this whole time. And so that was really, yeah. And so that was cool, man. And like, you know, Steve Klebnov actually like helped put it into perspective for me, like right at the very end that I wish I sort of had in the beginning. Because he was like, dude, you know, some of these developers come to this thing and they're not out here in the shenanigans. They're like, you know, putting in 15-hour days trying to like complete this thing to get this bounty. And some of the projects have like practical purposes, but some of them are just like tech flexes, you know, just to sort of flex on the other developers or whatever and showcase what can be done, even if there's no like practical purposes. And, you know, so he's sort of getting into like the nuances of like the dev culture at this thing. And I'm like, dude, that's fucking cool, man. Like it's like so different than a lot of these other things that I've been to. And I didn't get to all the presentations and I regret it now, like knowing the significance of that for the devs and everything, but it didn't stop me from like, you know, making the most of the trip and having a good time and everything. But I thought that was really cool and gave me an appreciation for a lot of the developers out here, like working really fucking hard, man. You know, it was interesting to like, you know, go to some of these networking events, you're like talking to some people and then like, you know, a fraction of the people like peels off. They're like, okay, we're going to go work on our like dev stuff now or whatever for the thing. And, you know, that kind of stuff. I feel like most of the other conferences I've gone to are just like straight networking, like, you know, 99% of the time people have like some different meetings and, you know, calls they got to take, but they're basically just networking events. And this had that, but it was definitely not like the primary focus for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a really cool anchor for, and like a differentiator too from a lot of the other like you're talking about, like more networking focused, like pure just shilling talks and those sort of conferences, which I think we've been to like more than enough. Having something where it's like the devs are doing their thing and then they're presenting at the end for a big ass bounty, that's cool and that's repeatable. And what they're doing and building is like for anyone that's doing anything on Ethereum or in the ecosystem, which is, it's really cool. I did not realize that. I knew dev focus, but I was like, I don't know what that even means. In my
Exactly,
mind.
dude. And the fact that it's like there's sort of a progression of the whole event, you know, is a really cool like thing. And yeah, man, it's like a thing. It's like something that you can remix every year, and you know, different projects put out bounties, so that changes things. So, and I think that had a pretty large effect on like the quality of the vendors on like the show floor and the speakers and everything, because a lot of these devs who come to this thing aren't interested in like buying junk. They're interested in like, you know, quality tech shit. So that was cool, man. I feel like it was if not the only conference I would go to again for some of the conference content, you know what I mean? NFT NYC or like some of these other ones, you know, I'm essentially looking at them and looking at the list of people who's going to go to those things. And I'm like, does this make sense for me to go to? But this, I'm like, you know, this is cool.
And well, like sort of pivoting from that into Rizzlefest, like, I mean, is there any takeaway, like anything you would want to bake into Rizzlefest, or like is Rizzlefest just going to be its own thing and you're like, I want to get as far away from the ETH Denvers and NFT NYCs as possible from there?
No, dude, I think like a very common complaint and common sentiment at this event and a lot of the events was what I was mentioning early, man. Like everything is just so spread out and it's impossible to see everybody, even though there's like a whole bunch of people that you're there to like network with. If you really want to hit them up, you're going to have to like, you know, most likely Uber one of these days and spend like a half day somewhere before you like Uber back. And that was like a really common complaint. The Uber situation is like a pain in the ass, man. Like every time you order one, like one gets canceled and, you know, all this shit. And so getting around was a pain in the ass. And so I feel like, and the whole time I'm like, dude, fucking Rizzlefest solves this, man. That this is like the exact opposite of that in terms of like, you know, you're sort of stuck in a what's the word, like a pressure cooker with these people. Not really though, because you're outside and it's like 130 acres. But like, you know, giving people the opportunity to network with each other, with the people that they want to, all in the same place without having to worry about like going to the next thing, who's going where, who's coming. I got to, you know, get a Uber, like all this shit. And I feel like, you know, had there been, and you know what, dude, that's one thing like last year VCon like did pretty well. I think by proxy of like Minnesota just being like dead as fuck, but like there was nowhere else to go except the main convention center at VCon. And because of that, there was like a good central location to always find the people that you wanted to find, because there was like literally nothing else to do and like nowhere else to go. And so I sort of appreciated that in that, you know, from that context. And so I'm like, dude, that's what I was there for. You know, I ended up appreciating the dev stuff, but I was there to network and, you know, just jumping through all these fucking hoops to like, you know, meet up with the people that you want. It was such a bitch. So I'm like, great, man. The people who are coming to Rizzlefest is already like a solid lineup of people who I would want to talk to for more than like an hour in between meals or some shit. So I'm like, good, man. That makes me feel like I tapped into, even if these people aren't coming to Rizzlefest, all these people are bitching about the same thing that I feel like I picked up on as well. And am sort of like tapping into by going the reverse direction with Rizzlefest and having it in like a, you know, just a central location. But the conversations were good, man. And I hope to replicate that by sort of putting everyone in this like, you know, open doors, like pressure cooker, because I feel like, you know, more than ever, the quality of the attendees and the conversations was like really, really high level shit, man. And I assume like, you know, wherever we are in the bear market and like anyone who's not really really passionate about it has probably like gone their way. And so I'm like, dude, yes, being able to like facilitate these high level discussions in a more controlled setting that everyone's not running around all over the place. So I in my head, I'm like, I would like to take some of that like really good part about ETH Denver, where you got like a group of really passionate people who like really care about the space, who are like only interested in talking about that kind of stuff, and sort of consolidate it all in one place. I was joking around with Justin, I think, from Monaverse on one of their Twitter spaces before I went out to ETH Denver. And, he's like, what are you going to do? Blah, blah, blah. I was telling him about like Trizlet's bowling event, which was super fun, man. Nate Alex turned out for that, and Harry Otter and a bunch of people. Was telling him like, all these people are like super fans, or at least the ones I'm going to hang out with are like super fans of the space and what's going on. And it doesn't really matter if you're like sitting in a conference room or you're like hurling bowling balls. Like the conversations are largely like similar or on the same topic. And so I also feel like Rizzlefest will be something sort of similar, man. We're sort of treating it and presenting it as like a retreat. We're getting away from all the tech. We're like, going out into nature, touch grass, like blah, 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 blah. But like, if you look at the people who are coming, like, what the conversations are going to be about. Like who's getting the fishing POAP and how do we integrate blockchain into this fucking thing or whatever. It's good shit though, man.
No, it's gonna be really fun. I feel like I had a preview to what Rizzlefest to be like last year, actually, in England. Met up with Luke from Non-Fungibles. I think we talked about this. I don't know if it was on Mars or like before we started recording previously. But he has like this really, really cool compound. There's a lake that surrounds his place. We had a bonfire, the barbecue. And it was a whole afternoon, evening, late into the night of eating, drinking, chatting, like walking around the compound, like doing drone shit. It was fun. It was really fun. And at the end, when we're around the bonfire with myself, Luke, and his wife, we were just like, we got to do this again somehow. And this is like way before Rizzlefest was even like born as an idea. And it's wild that basically a year later, essentially, give or take a couple of weeks, we're doing it. We're going to go to a nice place in nature, get a great group of folks together, and just create context for really cool conversations and like opportunities to have fun with one another. Like from that really simple canvas, it's really amazing. Like when we look back, what we're able to create just from that. So super stoked for it.
Yeah, man. It's cool to see like now, some of the attendees are starting to come up with like wacky activities and stuff that I'm plugging into the calendar. Like Trizlet's leading some sort of nature hike or something. Planet Binks has got like a hike planned as well, and like all these supplies she's bringing along. Brookhawk's like bringing out his fishing gear. Easy's like, yo, can I bring my throwing knives? I could do like a throwing knife class. I'm like, dude, hell yeah, dude. Let's do the throwing knife class, right? Why not? And like, a bunch of other stuff. Johan and Meme Explorers is sponsoring Dodgeball.
Why is that so perfect?
Right? Johan was like immediately so excited about Dodgeball too. He's like, yes, Dodgeball. I was like, all right, dude, bet you got it, man. But dude, yes, to your point, and Luke hit me up shortly after I hatched the idea and was like, yes, dude, I've got a place we could do this, abroad at some point too, and co-signed on the idea, probably on the heels of, the experience with you and everything. But I'm like, it sounds so nice to like be in a situation with these people where you can not have to be like, looking at your phone and be like, okay, I got a hard stop at 4:00, or like, you know what I mean? Or just be constantly having to think about like what the next thing is that you got to get to, or like, cool, I like checked this box. I ran into so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so here, like, blah, blah, blah. Now I got to get to the other thing. And it's just like, just to sort of take away, strip down all of that and just be like, all right, we're just here. I feel like like a less is more type of thing when it comes to, the types of conversations and stuff we're trying to facilitate.
Yeah, man. So now that you're back into it, I guess you got back from Denver yesterday or over the weekend, like what are you focused on? Like what's top of mind? Like did you catch back up on all the shit that's been happening in the interim? Anything stick out to you?
No, man, I got back last night and I'm like procrastinating and trying to no, not really. I'm not sort of cleaning up from ETH Denver still, like following up on conversations and sifting through DMs and everything. I know there's like a lot of like undercurrent drama going on, but I haven't been able to like keep up with Twitter like too much to see like what has come out publicly. But I know there's like a lot of like unrest going on in the artist community against like some of these like collector enclaves, mafias, or like whatever that have sort of sprung up. So I expect there to be drama if there's not drama already, but I don't want to spill the beans. However, I've been putting out cryptic tweets because I'm like, when the drama goes down, man, I've been like calling all these influencers grifters this whole time, and I'm going to do a really obnoxious public victory lap if like shit really hits the fan out there or whatever. So I don't know if that's alpha or like cryptic whatever, but you know, we'll find out. I'll spill the beans if it's public.
I haven't seen that drama. Although
So I'll give you the broad overview, man. So
Okay.
like I feel like I can do this without like hanging anyone out to dry. So the TLDR, man, is that like there's basically a lot of like collector enclaves or like groups that have formed that are like using their influence. I mean, we've seen this in the past that, you know, that are essentially like using their influence and their money to sort of push artists around or like control the nature of the drops, the art. And there's like a lot of like funny business going on in the background, like, you know, who's in cahoots with these, you know, sort of collector enclaves and everything. And like, dude, without even like saying like a whole lot more, you could probably figure out, like, you know, the gist of, you know, who these people are, because I feel like everybody has always sort of known this whole time. So I don't know, man. I again sort of coming in cold from vacation, but I'm like, you know, sort of scouring the group chats and everything. There's like a lot of pissed off people who like don't want to sort of do the collector dance. And I can't say I blame them, man. If I'm like an artist, you know, I sort of want to be able to do my thing without having to, you know, take direction from collectors. But it's a tough rub, man. I feel like we've seen this in the past where people have accused like certain collectors of having essentially like too much influence in the market, and then like using their influence to like dictate what kind of art comes out. And, you know, the artists start sort of catering their art to these collectors, and, you know, all this sort of like weird stuff going on. So I don't know, man. I feel like this deep in the bear market, like shit starts getting like really weird. People start like, you know, making strange decisions. Stuff comes out publicly. I don't know, man. What has been going on? Is there anything I should be caught up with?
No, just real quick, touching on what you're talking about with like sometimes the negative influence of a bunch of collectors on artists. It's something that's been going on. It pops up here or there, but I think this is sort of something in the artists' court where if they're just like collectors curate art and artists, like artists they have tools available to them to start curating their collectors. They're not as widely available as they should be. A lot of them are still like works in progress, but one of the ways to not or to like try to distance yourself from some of these shitty collectors is to make sure that you're using the tools available wisely. Like, for example, in the manifold like OE boom that lasted like a week and a half or whatever, everyone and their mother was doing the open editions. It's cool, yeah, everyone's buying the editions, but you're totally open the floodgates to whomever wants to come in and scoop all these editions and collect, and that opens up the possibility that you get some of these terrible collectors that are like, I just bought like 50% of your last OE drop. Like, what are you going to be doing for me? Oh, this was a scam. Like, it really opens you up to some of these negative situations. So being more thoughtful with the tools, I think it could go a long way on the artist side to help obviate some of these like shitty situations that can arise from just the sheer fact that anyone can collect your work if you're not careful enough to think about curating your collectors.
It's interesting for me to think about, man, because I've honestly, I've launched, a few collections that did well between like, the on-chain chains and helped out the fly frogs and, dropped some of my own, fake art out there. And I've never really personally run into a situation like that before. And so was sort of, I don't know, not surprised because we've seen it, but I don't know. You wonder who gets targeted and why, and like I don't know, the whole like seedy underbelly of like the crypto art scene. And I empathize with the artists, man. I feel like musicians are often in the same boat where they're like trying to make a living out of their craft, and then like the people who have the money to be able to afford them that living are like asking them to do some like sus stuff, or like sort of cater their, thing to what they want or whatever. I don't know. The collector like artist relationship is like a very interesting thing, especially like when it goes awry. And I feel like Stella Bell has had some difficulties with that. I don't want to like put words in her mouth if I'm conjuring something up that didn't happen, but it's not uncommon, especially for people who have been in the art scene for a long time. So anyway, it sounds like potentially another wave of drama coming in that, same vein. So I don't know, man. Always excited to see what drama comes out in this space. It's never dull.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time too, it's been cool to see the explosion, like on the AI art side of things, like Claire Silver like properly blowing up, Pindar Von Arman blowing up, featured Sotheby's, just like the whole, again, like it just goes back to art. Artists doing really cool shit. Seeing like this within crypto art, like the subset of forever art, really just take hold. Pindar's, Bikans, Matt Cain's, Gazers, even going back to Nate Alex's chain faces and like autoglyphs, like 100% on chain, or like forever art that continues to live and evolve over time. It's just for all the shit that happens and the distractions and the drama. If you want to like a breather from that to focus on something else, like there's that good stuff there for people too. So yeah, it's not just drama. It's not like the old, like it's not like Reddit back in the day, Bitcoin, like just shit talking and the subreddits. There's a lot more like good stuff to focus on.
Dude, 100%, man. And that actually came up when I was at ETH Denver too. And you and I called this, man, like a very long time ago before NFTs like really blew up. And I remember the conversation with me and you, we were saying something along the lines of, like maybe NFTs are what really push, crypto mainstream and everything. And I truly feel like it happened because of the artists and will continue to stay relevant because of the artists, and they will probably also never get their proper credit or respect or whatever because of that, man. But I just think about like, I was into the crypto scene like really early on and was like a pretty fucking good day trader for a while there until I got to NFTs, which is what originally sparked that thought when we were talking about it like way back in the day, because I'm like, this shit hits different, man. I can't like, when I'm day trading shit coins or whatever, it's easy to be like cutthroat and like ruthless because you don't really care about what's on the other side of things. It's just a token. You may not know like anything about the project. You're like looking at numbers and graphs and like reacting accordingly. But the like actual like attachment that you can have to NFTs and everything, I just feel like changes the whole context of like crypto and it being able to continuously be pushed into the public eye because it's sticky, man. And I'm a good day trader with shit coins, and I'm a shitty day trader with NFTs because I can't bear to sell a lot of them because I'm emotionally attached to either the art or the experience that ended up or the belief in the project and everything. And it's just it's so different than anything else, man. So I feel like a lot of credit at this event with all of these tech heavy people is given to the artists and the creators and the builders who are doing this stuff purely for the sake of doing it, purely for the sake of fun, but also like giving it like real world meaning to everyday people, which is the big shift I feel like in the past few years.
100%. Dude, we have like a couple folks listening to us. Shout out Carly the noob or Clary the noob, Dragonate's mom. Do we want to, Drago, do you have any questions? Or Clary, do you have any questions you want to ask us before we wrap up?
Or
Not sure
Dragonate's
how to
mom.
deal with this like live listening situation, but I feel like we can try to do some shit here. That could be fun or not. Dragonite can get rid
Interview
of it.
Dragonate's mom one of these days. I would love to interview Dragonate's mom. Be
Hold
like,
on, Drago, are you coming down to Rizzlefest? Please tell me yes.
Dragonate's mom, tell us everything you know about Dragonate.
Spill the tea.
Yeah. What
What do you hate the most about these events like ETH Denver and whatnot?
That's a good question. Dude, Denver's like expensive as fuck, and that sucks. Because it's like $25 to get an Uber anywhere. Every fucking hamburger you eat is like $20 and some shit, unless you like are gonna, again, take an Uber somewhere else where there's like cheaper shit and everything. So I feel like a lot of these events are the same way. You get sort of price gouged and like nickel and dimed, like every time you turn the corner, if you just want a cup of coffee or something. So that sucks, man. It's not like cheap to go to these things, even if you get a free press pass or whatever. There's like this one did a better job of NFT NYC, but also like the bar is very low in terms of like having all the speaker content, reasonably centrally located. There's 3 different stages there with like concurrent talks going on or whatever. But even that's like, almost overload for me. I feel like sort of like, paralysis by the amount of choices going on. Like if there's like so many concurrent talks going on, I just basically end up going to none of them. And so, that's not always what's super interesting to me either. But I feel like it would be cool for one of these events to like not have so many talks going on at the same time and just have like a really nice, like well curated main event that again is like a central location. I think a lot of these conferences have, with the amount of attendees have like grown to the point where they don't know how to scale without essentially just spreading all their shit out all over the place. And I feel like you get a more watered down experience that way. But again, ETH Denver, did it better than most. The other thing that was like very frustrating or difficult was like, a simple like UI situation with their website. They've got, every 20 minutes, 3-4 concurrent talks going on, but there was no way to see who is talking. You could see like without like clicking through. So you could see what all the topics were every day in like multiple locations. But, I'm someone who would basically filter by the speakers, regardless of what they're talking about. If there was someone who I was like really interested in hearing from, the topic is less interesting than the speaker themselves. And there was no real easy way to like aggregate or discover who was talking. It was just like a series of topics and everything. So that made it difficult. Not that I'm one of the people who would, really take advantage of like all the speaker content, but I would have probably ended up at a few more things if it was more easy to understand like what the hell was going on. NFT NYC had the same problem. They were so spread out. There was so much shit going on that it was like, I think a lot of people were in the same situation as me, where there was so much stuff going on simultaneously everywhere that everyone was just like, well, how about we just go to the dive bar and we just like hang out and like, talk there, and people can come meet up with us there and stuff. So that was tough, but it's hard for me to, given how crappy my conference experiences have been recently, it's hard to really talk too much smack about ETH Denver. I feel like, given what they had to work with, they did it about as well as anyone. Although, actually, hang on, I can bitch about something, man. The registration situation was tragic.
Yeah. Dude, you almost just missed the whip because of that.
Yeah, dude, I almost missed the whip. Dude, I stood 2 hours in line to get my press pass, and the normie line was moving much faster, but that one was like around the block too. Dude, they literally had 2 doors. Like one door was open for general admission, and one door was open for speakers, press pass, like basically anyone who was like working the event in like some capacity. And the general admission line went a little bit quicker because I guess you just boop your thing, you scan your thing and you get in or whatever. But we had to like register and like all this shit to get our pass and everything. And they opened the doors at like, I want to say 9, it might've been 8 to start registration. And, in my head, I'm like, I know how this thing goes. I'm not even going to get there until like 11 or something because for whatever reason in Web3, nobody knows how to do fucking ticket registration. And showed up at 11, man. And the line was like still all the way around the block and waited for, 2 hours, got my press pass, hopped in an Uber. And the Wi-Fi situation was tragic. The event Wi-Fi was unusable. And it was like a mobile Wi-Fi, like black hole. So you have like everybody there, finally there, like, but it's impossible to communicate with anybody. So it was sort of a shit show on registration day in that regard. But after that, it was like pretty much smooth sailing. But I can't, like, why is registration like the most difficult unlock in like a Web3 conference? I don't get it. Like, aren't there professionals who know how to do this?
I don't know. I think they try to add too much crypto to it.
I think you're right.
Maybe like a layer that trying to protect someone's identity that makes it like way more cumbersome than it needs to be. It's really annoying. I just want to go back real quick to like the first point that you were bitching about how everything's either like spread out or there's just so much shit going on. As like a contrast to that, we talked about this last November, but the non-NFT Summit that was happening down in Mexico City that Neurocolor, Mojada, and a few other folks helped put on, like it was literally an afternoon only of a couple highly curated chats and panel discussions. That was it. Party afterwards. And then people were down there and then they were able to set their own shit up on top of that. So there was no stepping on anyone else's toes. It was focused. Everyone knew what the big thing that they wanted to come for was, and then they could kind of chill after that. Like that's the way. That's a platform that you can build on top of and schedule cool things that happen around the event, as opposed to all this shit that at most other conferences just happens concurrently and you're forced to choose and it's just distracting.
Yeah, dude, exactly. More of that, man. That's one of the few things I really regret not getting to or whatever. But that's like a great example. Dude, one of the best decisions was on the last day of the conference. I was about conferenced out at that point. You know what I mean? You'd like you scoured all the swag. You talked to all the people at the conference center and everything. And so Fractillions actually took a bunch of. She's local-ish to the area, so she took a handful of us. Let's see, it was like me, CK Bubbles, Yarcita, Gino, I'm going to butcher his like screen name, Gino Singolana, sorry, Gino. She took a bunch of us hiking out by Boulder or whatever. And same thing as with the bowling comment either, you know what I mean? You remove a bunch of people from the event, the conversations still happen, but in like a different context. And it was fucking great, dude, to like sort of take a field trip. It felt like that day, and we actually had the exact same conversation, man. We were like, man, this shit should be built into like these trips. Like every trip should have like an excursion day, or we should build in like an excursion day where like a handful of people can just go do some fun shit. And we went hiking for a couple hours, and then we walked around Boulder and got, some coffee and stuff like that. But it was like such a nice departure from like the typical conference running around and that kind of thing. But it was with a group of people who you were able to talk to and have like high level conversations with about the industry and like all this stuff, but in like in just such a better like environment and context. And, it's not like everything can be that, or maybe Rizzlefest it can to some extent, but like underscores your point, man, that like, 4 days in a row of like mediumly well curated content was too much, man. By day 4, I needed to get the hell out of there. Like a couple days of like highly curated content with like some fun field trip type of shit on the side, I feel like is a better balance in general. And that was the highlight of the trip, man. You know, getting out, getting away from the conference with like some fun people who understand the conversations and being able to see the area a little bit and touch some real grass and shit was a great way to cap it.
Love that. You got to get away from it to really get into the good stuff.
Yeah.
In space, a lot of times, true of conferences, true of a lot of aspects. Kind of cool. Dude, you want to cap it here? We have a cool coming up on Thursday. Checking out Metavoxels. Excited for that. Again, shout out to Claire the Noob, Dragonade's mom for stopping by for this, whatever we want to call this live recording session. Cool. Thank you for asking that question too, Dragonade. We'll get you those Twitter handles to make tagging much easier. But yeah, awesome recap, dude. Glad to have you back and not at risk of missing the whip now because of standing in a long ass terrible line because people don't know how to do ticketing for this Thursday.
Right. Genius, man. That's why we whip. Just come right in.
There we go. Hell yeah. Awesome, dude. Take it easy.
Awesome, man. Take it easy, dude.
Peace.